Now to bring to the stage Thomas Duffy, Montgomery Danny McCafferty's campaign chair, Duffy and Fulginiti.
All right, so if I wasn't really intimidated, I had to hear everybody else who was here. Congressman Brady, Governor, members of Supreme Court, Superior Court. For a kid from 61st and Hazel to find myself up here, a guy who went to Bonner, talking about a judge guy, it's kind of overwhelming, but let me try. First of all, I'd like to start out like I often do, to thank the people here at the Logan, but even to thank the servers, the chefs, the food purveyors, the people who set up these chairs, the AV people, the bartenders, the cleaners, the valets. Without the workers, we're not here. Without them, nothing happens. I'd like to thank the city committee. I'd like to thank every committee person, every ward leader. I'd like to thank Mayor Parker's campaign, who got the vote out, which was the highest off-election year ever in the city of Pennsylvania, in the city of Philadelphia, which is amazing. I'd also like to take a moment to remember Max Baer. Okay, Max came on this, ran in 2003, came on this bench in 2004, and unfortunately died on September 30th, 2022. His spot would have been open because of retirement anyway. But we have to remember that it's a big seat and big shoes that Dan's filling, and that was an important seat, and he gave 18 years of wonderful service on this court. I'd like to now talk about the people who are on our team. And first, I'd like to thank Celeste D., who took us through the primary. And, you know, what happened here in 2018, I went over to see Dan at City Hall, and he said, I think I'm going to run for Superior Court. And I said, I think we had to have this conversation outside this building, because somewhere in the back of my mind, I knew you weren't supposed to do that. We went to the coffee shop across the street. I did go to law school, and I went to the coffee shop across the street, and I said, you're what? I said, you just got on here a little while ago. He said, I think I'm going to run for Superior Court. And he told me he was going to ask someone to be his campaign chair. And I said, well, that's all well and good, but I think that guy's a loser. Can I be your campaign chair? And he said, yeah, if you want. And little did I know, 4 statewide races later, I'd be standing here. First of all, I'd like to, Celeste really got us through the primary, but I also would like to thank Deborah Kunzelman for running in that primary. She ran such a classy race, and no personal attacks, and nothing that was improper. And we had the good fortune of being from the city of Philadelphia, where there was the biggest turnout ever, and she from the middle part of the state where there wasn't a turnout, or this would be a closer race. But Deborah Kunzelman really is a spectacular judge, and every time I went around trying to get money, people would say, I'm not giving you money against Deborah. We love Deborah. Deborah's great. So I really appreciate that. For the general election, we put together another team. We had Marita Crawford, Raul Kali, Billy Murray, Andrew Romano, Tommy McDonald, and J.J. Balaban put together the stuff for TV. And then we had, I mentioned Marita, we also had the Rookie of the Year, straight from Drexel University, Hattie Specter, who came on, and somehow it's in her DNA, who knew exactly what to do and how to do things. I'd like to also thank and congratulate the candidates for the Superior Court, okay? Tamika Lane and Jill Beck, and also, and also Matt Wolf, okay? And every time there was some gathering or some meeting, there was a team. And everybody talked together. And what was kind of neat is I'd get a text in a Saturday morning from Tamika with a picture saying, hanging out with Dan in Southwest Philly with, Senator Williams. And then 20 minutes later, he not knowing you would text me, Dan would say, hanging out with Tamika in Southwest Philly, we're having a good time. So it was a united effort. And everybody said, oh, it's great, we went 4 for 4. We didn't. We went 6 for 6. We retained 2 wonderful Superior Court judges, in Vic Stabile and in Jack Piniella. So the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania went 6 for 6. That 6 great people are on the appellate division, the appellate court. And Jack, I went through looking through numbers. I mean, Dan got 218,168 votes, more than his opponent. I mean, who's counting? Let me repeat that, 218,168 votes. But Jack got 126,205 votes more than you did for his retention. Now, it really matters because Jack spent about $13,000 and you spent a little over 13 million. But I don't want to act like maybe we should rely on Jack. And the 218,000 counts the 30,000 people we bust in from Trenton to vote. All right. I also want to congratulate and thank the 13 Court of Common Pleas judges who won, and the 11 Court of Common Pleas judges who were retained, and also the 3 municipal court judges who are new, and the 7 who were retained. Without that down ballot people getting the vote out and getting people to vote for them, we wouldn't have had the turnout and we wouldn't have had what we have. I am fortunate to be in the Philadelphia Court of Common Pleas to practice here. It is really the best court system in the United States. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what our detractor says. And under Judge Anders and Judge Wright Padilla, it's just getting better and better. All right. Now, what really was important in this race, of course, was getting money from CBT and from the trial lawyers and from organizations. And I have to thank CBT. The chair, Ezra Walgalenter, he's not here today, but he's going to be the next chancellor of the bar. Dan Jack, Larry Bendesky, Kenny Fulginiti, and Tim Lawn, and my dear friend who's going to speak next, Joe Messa, who got unbelievable pleasure that every time that I was in a meeting, he'd go, we're going to talk about IE stuff and raising money. Bye-bye, Felicia. And he would throw me out of the room. I also want to thank what I call the senior advisors who aren't trustees, Sam Pond, Tom Klein, Jerry Lahaki, Bob Mongaluzzi, and Nancy Winkler, all of whom put together this effort for this. And last but not least, the father of the Rookie of the Year, Shane Inspector, who really, nobody knows the inside game of politics in Pennsylvania more than Shane. And when you ever had a question or you ever needed any advice, Shannon was always there. I'd like to thank the PAJ, Lisa Benzie and her staff, mostly Ashley Jordan, Liz Capata, Jason Mattis, Eric Weiss, Larry Kelly, and also other people around the state who helped us, Neil O'Donnell and Billy Goodrich, who were very helpful, and the Alliance, okay? So when you're working with Dan, Tommy Sheridan said after Dan's Superior Court race, it's sort of like dealing with where's Waldo. Like, where's Dan? He's in Erie. Where's Dan? He's in Allentown. Where's Dan? He's in Pittsburgh. You call Dan at 8 o'clock at night, where are you? I'm on the turnpike, okay? And I used to joke and say that Dan went everywhere. He even went to Clarion, and that nobody went to Clarion since 1977 when they shot the Deer Hunter. When they filmed the Deer Hunter there. So then it became this running joke that I would start getting text, and it would be Dan coming past Clarion with Clarion 8 miles. Or he'd pull into Clarion and take a picture of the town square and say, I'm in Clarion, you idiot. And I thought that was really good, except, Dan, Clarion cast a whole total of 8,699 votes, of which you got 2,545. Okay? You lost Clarion by 40 points, dude. Now, Jack Piniella carried Clarion. What'd you say? Yeah, he got all the Jack Piniella got 2,015 more votes in his retention there than you did. So 10 years from now, when you come up for retention, don't go to Clarion, or ask Jack how to carry Clarion, because
Or if you do pronounce it correctly, it's Clarion.
Clarion.
You have to be from Western Pennsylvania to know.
And they probably call their team the Stellars. All right. But that's Dan. So when we started to put this campaign together, everybody said, well, what's your message going to be? Like there was some formula we put together. And I said, we don't have a message. We have Dan. And we have what Dan believes. Dan believes that a woman's rights for reproduction should be a decision between her and her doctor. And that's why Planned Parenthood and every woman's organization supported Dan. Okay? Dan believes that voting should be accessible to people. So if you're a waitress or you're a mechanic and you work all day, you can vote by mail and you don't have to stand in line on a Tuesday to vote. And that's why the new Pennsylvania Voting Project, the ACLU, and everybody else that favors voting voted for Dan. Dan believes that people should have a right to organize labor. That when labor is together and people are in unions, they have the most strong voice and they're not taken advantage of. And that's why everybody came out, every union came out. That's why the Teamsters and everyone else was behind Dan, all right? Dan believes that the court should be open to people who are hurt and injured, and that's why PTLA, PAJ, and AAJ was behind him. And Dan got the support of everybody from ASME to PSEA to everybody. So that's why Dan won this election, because he's Dan. And he didn't have a phony message, and when he appeared before editorial boards, he didn't have to hide what he had said before or pretend he was somebody else. I'd like to say congratulations to you, Dan. And also, every diversity, equity, and inclusion group backed Dan. Every LGBTQ group backed Dan. Okay? Dan is Dan. I'd like to say congratulations, Dan. I'd like to say congratulations, Sam. I'd like to say congratulations to the family, that everybody is great, looking down from heaven, Seamus and Margaret, Margaret and Madison. I say congratulations to the Supreme Court, because you're going to have a new member who's going to pay attention, who's going to care. I say congratulations to the Superior Court, because when you write opinions, if they're thoughtful and they're right, they're going to be listened to by people who are going to either affirm you or not take certiorari on stupid issues. And I say congratulations to the people of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, because now we're going to have one more great justice who's going to do and support and do what's right for the people of the Pennsylvania. So thank you, everybody, for letting me speak today.